My name is Steve Boyack. Thank you so much. This is going to be tough for me, I can tell already. Dang it, I get one line into this. Okay. But I really do appreciate everybody that's shown up, and those of you that have known Phil and things that he did for the community, for the young people of this town that are now kind of older. Some of us are pretty old, okay, but just appreciate everybody coming, and those that had to limp in, I appreciate that. We saw some of that out there in the parking lot, but that's cool. We appreciate it, and so on. Family, friends, a lot of the merchants, businessmen, local supporters have just given us a lot and helped with this memorial. Some of Phil's former players are here and opponents, and it's just been great, okay? I'd like to thank the Spanish Fork City Council for approving this, and they said it was pretty much long overdue, and I agreed. And, you know, I sat in the stands with Melanie Anderson, former Nielsen Anderson, and watching Spanish Fork play Maple Mountain in the state playoffs, and she said there should be something out here, and I you know, so I kind of got it going about a month ago, and Melanie kind of was the last straw that got me going on that. Thank you. Okay. Some of the men that have helped down there: Dale Robinson, Bart Morrell, Mark Resch, Tad Thorpe. I wanted to make sure they all got a recognition. Anybody that's been coaching or done anything like that through their lives, I appreciate that. I've coached for 36 years in the ranks. These two coaches over here have outcoached me by far in years and wins and integrity and everything, and we appreciate them coming, and we'll talk more about them later. But if you've been a coach or just been involved with your young people, it's a special thing, it really is. I'd like to thank the media that are here. Spanish Fork Community Network's here. Appreciate that. Pete, where's Pete and Adam? We had Morgan Vance come down on Thursday, and he was trying to get someone here today. Don't know if they'll show, but Morgan Vance is with Fox 13 News. They did a short story on us, and there's going to be something tomorrow on, I guess it's called a sports page, which is about a 30-minute show on Sunday afternoon. So if you want to tune in there too. I'd like to thank my family. My sister is here, okay. Phil's other child, there's only two of us, okay. Evelyn Boyack Mickle. She's been instrumental in helping and supporting in all this. All of my kids and her kids and our grandkids, we appreciate all of you. They're all decked out in the Boyack Proud shirts. We're also celebrating their 100th birthday this year, and so it was kind of worked out great. Our daughter Celeste, where's Celeste go? She designs and does all this behind the scenes work for us, so not behind the scenes anymore. And of course my lovely wife Dana. Hopefully most of you do know her, and she's just been... If you put up with the coach. That's right. Those that are coaches' wives, right? She is a hero. All you coaches' wives are heroes. But she has supported me every minute of the way through all of this, and it kept growing and growing. I just thought it's going to be something small, and let's just do something and get it over with and have a bench there for the rest. But I kept getting crazy ideas, and it kind of grew into what I hope is going to be a good outing for us. All righty. I just want to start off and tell you a little bit about Phil if you didn't know him. A lot of you do. Some of you are here that didn't know him, but he was born in February 5th of 1922. This is 2022, and so like I said, it's his 100th birth year. He grew up his entire life right here in Spanish Fork, born and raised down on about 5th North and just past Wells Broadbank's dental office right there. Russell, his brother, is here, the lone survivor of the Boyack boys. Okay, so we appreciate you and Carolyn and your family being here. Dad loved all sports. He did. He just for somehow grew up loving sports. I think it was more what he knew that it could do for people and do for families and do for the young men and young women that were playing. I think he knew the value of sports, as do probably most of you that are here, because you love sports. I do especially, and I got my love of sports from him. Dad was always, he loved to play and do what he could in high school. Wasn't a big guy, so didn't play a whole lot of sports, but he just loved them. But he did run some track. He got to be pretty fast, and something that he always had as a claim to fame was when, I don't know what it was exactly, a field day or some type of a specialty day at the high school. I think he was young, and the high school was right behind us here. That's now Nebo School District building, but it was a high school back when he was going there. And on this field day, they had a greased pole, some type of a pole like that. At the top, there was a flag of some sort, and all the classes would sprint to it to see who could get to the pole, shimmy up, and grab the flag off the top, and how they do the competitions. And he was there first. He got there first. He just starts a shimmy, and he's getting up there and almost ready to grab the pole, and somebody grabbed his pants, pulled him down, okay? And there he was, okay? Nothing on but a smile at that time, I think. But that moonshot made it into the yearbook, and he was proud of that for some reason. No one fell, right? So I kind of love that about him, okay? Some other things about him. He was known as, his actual name was John Philip Boyack, but mainly known, you knew him as Phil, maybe JP. He went by that sometime, JPB, whatever, but a lot of us still know him, and some of us refer to him as Boyk. There's Dave. Dave and I work over at Mayfield Mountain. They're both Boyks, but Dave always comes by my room and yells, "Boyk!" So I kind of had that, I don't know if it was a nickname, but that's what they called me in high school, and referred to my dad a lot as Boyk. That was our actual name, I guess, coming over. Right, Russ, coming over from Wales? Yeah, Carolyn said yes. Okay, all righty. Okay, he, as I mentioned, lived most of his life in Spanish Fork until the World War broke out, okay, in December of '41. Okay, he was about 19 at the time, but knew the importance of serving. Spanish Fork was very, very important to him. I think sports at the time was very important to him. The community was very important to him, but the love of country was the most thing that was important to him. And he let me know that my whole life, and I was proud of him for that. Anyway, shortly after the war, after the United States was pulled into the war, he drove down to San Diego, enlisted, volunteered, wasn't drafted or anything, just went down and volunteered, and was put on a ship, but pretty immediately caught pneumonia and was put in a hospital while that ship that he was on took off. And he, as soon as he got out of the hospital, jumped on a warship that took him out to sea, and he spent the next 4 years fighting for our country, which, again, I was very proud of. When he returned, he married a high school, not a sweetheart yet, but a high school classmate, and Catherine Jones. They were married and spent their entire lives together, living right here in Spanish Fork. Same house for pretty much their entire marriage, just down, if you knew where we all lived, down on First West and about 740 North. So lived there for their pretty much entire marriage. We'd watch sports together. When the time came for me to start playing, and back in those days, I didn't start until I was about 10, like most of us guys did. I got a lot of my buddies back there that we all played together and did this thing. Most of us started about age 10, and I couldn't wait for him to take me down to Swanner's Sporting Goods to get that first glove. They're all snickering back there. They know old Swanner's, huh? And get a glove, get me some cleats, and boy, I was excited. It was fun, and he was excited to do it. He loved just gifting gloves to people. In fact, when my wife and I were ready for our first child, of course, he runs out and grabs a little baseball glove for him. Celeste, how'd that work out? Okay, so he just stashed it in the closet, waited for our next little boy to come along and, you know, ready to give it to him. And Danielle, that didn't work out too good either. Okay, so our third one came along. We all knew that was the time. Finally, our little boy's going to get Grandpa's glove, but Taya, that didn't work. Okay, so we had 3 girls right off the bat, and as a coach, I'm sitting there, gosh, what's going on, Grandpa? What's going on? Okay, and so we had a 4th, and guess what? Finally got our boy Corey. Okay, left-handed. All righty. We just left the glove in the closet. I don't even know where it is now, you know. So it's and we did finally 12 years later, for whatever reason, had another young boy, right-handed. Go find the glove. It's gone. We don't know where it is. So Tyler is still waiting for his glove somewhere. But anyway, that was Grandpa. He just loved to do things like that. After I got my glove and cleats, he'd take me out in our front yard and throw ground balls to me. You know, one of the hardest things for young baseball players, the field would be a little short hop, which bounces right in front of you and it kind of hits you in the face or the chest or the shins. And, you know, he knew that, and so he just threw me hundreds a day of that until he felt I could protect myself, you know, the head out this way, and somehow scooped it. But, you know, I think that was just a lot of fun, just having him do that. Come time to play in my kind of first ball game, my first or second ball game, I got hit by a pitch twice in the same game, and Dad wasn't going for that, so he grabbed some tennis balls, and out we go into this little driveway, which at the time I thought was pretty big. If you drive by the house now, you think, man, that thing was small. But we're out in our little carport driveway area, and he's pitching to me, and he'd throw one down the middle, and I'd try to hit it or whatever. Then the next 2 or 3 bouncing off of me so I could get out of the way, and that's mainly what he was teaching me, was just how to get out of the way of a baseball. He didn't think that I should be getting on base that way so often. So those were just some fun memories of him doing that type of stuff. He didn't coach me at all as a coach when I was in Little League, but then when we got to the 13 and 14-year-olds, and over on that field that we see back over there was, he decided it's time, and he started coaching me there. He inherited a team it was called the Pirates at the time, but him and my mom soon figured out that they had to change that name to the Phillies. So he coached the Phillies for quite a while, and then also eventually moved up and coached. He's coached pretty much all the levels onto the big field and so on with the 15s and 16s. So he's coached every age group, and so those that played for him, I think, knew how much he loved them. Also, a funny little story, when I was about 9, 10, 11 or so through there, he went out and bought me a hoop. I love basketball too, so, you know, I'm getting excited. He says, we'll go down and get you a hoop and, you know, let you start practicing doing all that. And I also like tetherball. You know, back in those days, tetherball was pretty good. You know, had the dirt right there that just from playing tetherball forever. Well, Dad's concept was 2 for 1. He bought me the tetherball pole and just put a steel rim on the top of it. No net, no bank board, nothing. I said, what? Dad, where's the bank board? He says, you learn to be a better shooter if all you can hit is the open circle up there. And so that was my glory days. Fortunately, he probably remembers that, you know, and all the friends would come and play. We played like for 3 minutes and had to go find a real court somewhere. But, okay. When I was a teenager and then eventually got to be, you know, married and so on, Dad always liked to go for walks. And, you know, and the day he'd take off and leave for, gosh, 2-3 hours, you know, I think he's walked all over the place. Maybe walked to, you know, Springville and back or somewhere. But when I started walking with him, I found that his walks consisted of probably 20 minutes of walking, because all the rest of the time he was stopping talking to somebody, you know. And so we're going, and I'd walk along, and we'd have to stop and talk to somebody, and just waiting and waiting. And so I think he got 20 minutes of walking in, was about it. But as we do those walks, he'd walk by somebody and he'd say hello, and I said, Dad, who was that? He said, son, I don't know. You know, and that's what he was about. He'd just say hello to any and everybody. Which is kind of a cool trait of his, and I think why people enjoyed him. He was a huge Spanish Fork High fan, okay? Loved all of Coach Shu Nelson's baseball games. This was originally going to go over on that field, on Nelson Field. And Shu had kind of said this is where he always sat, because I was gone. I'd moved down to Las Vegas, and probably the only regret of my life was to be staying down there so long away from Mom and Dad and all of you. I really mean that sincerely. I love you people that are here, that are our friends, and I missed you, and I wish I would have stayed the 2 years we planned instead of 32. But Shu showed me where he would sit, him and some of his other buddies that, some other buddies were very instrumental in all of this. I mean, we could list a whole list of names on that thing, but he'd show me this is where Phil would always sit for every ball game. He'd go to Shu's practices, loved Shu, loved what he did for the high school, for the community, for the state, in baseball. And we'll talk more about Shu in a little bit, but he loved that. He loved BYU basketball. He loved BYU football. We had season tickets on the 50-yard line. He'd take me, and we just loved that. Boy, we started off in the Virgil Carter days, which was in the 60s, and just through a lot of those quarterbacks, and he'd follow them and everything. But then he just especially loved basketball and loved Roger Reed and everything that Roger stood for as a coach over there, and everything that he stood for in this community here in Spanish Fork. And so I've asked those two to be speaking today, because I'm sure they'd be first and second on Dad's list. You guys figure out who was first. Go ahead there. But so Dad also loved, besides all those things, he loved to hunt deer, hunt pheasants, hunt ducks. He'd take me up there and do all that with me. My uncles, we got Russell, sometimes Alan, Boyack. We had Duck Buffton, if you know Duck, and Glade Grody Gut, and all these guys would take me up hunting, and their sons, and we'd live in, in this cabin for the weekend. And if any of you knew the old strawberry cabins, thanks, Russ, appreciate that. I mean, never been so cold in my life. Okay, didn't have the heating at all. We'd try to light a fire in the stove, but that didn't go very far. But it was fun. I love those memories and love those things that we did up in the mountains with each other. He was also an avid bowler. A lot of you may have seen him down at the Duke's Lanes down there before they dissolved all of that stuff. So that's a little bit about what Dad is. He taught me to try to be kind, to try to be polite, and I think he was a good example of that. And I hope I've taken a little bit of that from him, and hopefully I've passed all of it to my children. Okay, without further ado, we'll move on to the important stuff here. Okay. We'll start off with Shu, Jim Shu Nelson, okay. Love the nickname there, but come on up, Shu. I think probably the winningest coach around in this high school ranks, okay. We actually grew up down together in the same ward. Can't believe he's like 12 years older than I am, but oh wait, were you younger? Right, okay. But we had a blast then, okay. And his brother Whites, and if you ever seen Whites and Shu, those guys were like, they were mini-me's back in the 60s. Loved both those guys, watching. We'd always go play basketball behind your yard and everything, but he just did a great job. When he got here to be a coach, I was excited. I didn't know his dreams were what they were at the time. Again, I was kind of gone away. But what was your final? I got a 564 and 180, but I know you had more wins, a few more wins than that. Come on, 6 more wins or so. Did you win state year last year?
We took second.
Oh, man.
But we won it 6 times.
So you went 5-1 then, in the last 6. So I'd have to add 5 wins to this thing that I had.
I think it was 572.
Okay, I think. Boyack, it was 572. What are you doing? Shorting me here, huh?
And then
180 losses or 181?
Losses.
So we don't count that?
I think it was 181 losses.
Okay, because of the state championship then. Okay. And that's probably about a 78, 79% winning rate, which is unheard of. It's phenomenal. Good job, buddy. Okay.
Thanks,
just some other things. 6 titles, like you mentioned. 2 runners-up. I mean, that close to having 8 there. 3. Oh, my bad. 3.
And they sucked.
You got to update this.
They sucked.
They hurt, don't they? Yeah. Okay. So down in Vegas, we had a coach that had a shirt, "Second sucks." It does. Second best team in the state. We're probably the best, but you end up second. Okay. 9 third place finishes.
I don't know.
Am I wrong on it? He doesn't care about third place. That really sucks. Okay, but any coach would give everything they had to take third. Okay, he just did that like it was nothing. 16 region titles. Am I right there, or 17? 16. I got to be right on a couple of these. Okay, in 29 years.
19.
I was way off there. Hey, I got this off of YouTube or somewhere, so you can blame them.
You just go look at the board over there.
I wasn't keeping that close a track. I can't count that
It
high.
doesn't matter.
I teach math. All right.
I didn't win any. The players won everything.
He's humble. He really is. That's the neat thing about him. In 29 years of coaching, right? 30?
29.
Okay. One losing season. That's phenomenal.
That's
What place did
two.
you take
We took second.
with his only losing season?
Yeah, we took second.
That's phenomenal.
Oh,
Okay.
in state or in region?
Yeah, in state,
In
third.
state, we
I got third.
probably took
Third?
no,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, third. Okay. So I'm getting your stats up a little bit. The older we get, the better we were.
Absolutely.
Okay. National Coach of the Year. Phenomenal. Unheard of. How many is that, that you know of that's done that? This guy's done that. Okay. Anything else that we got to say about you? Well, let me just mention this. Yeah, this isn't so much you, but when I was down in Vegas, I was proud of what he was doing. I coached baseball down there, I coached basketball down there, and I did some football. But I was still a Spanish Forker. I really was. I loved it. I loved what it stood for. I was a Don. They said, a Don, what's that down there? They didn't know much about that. But anyway, it was one of the only cities around that, could go by just one name, Spanish, and people knew. I'm from Spanish, and that's all we had to say. Kind of like in that Madonna or J-Lo or, Kareem, Spanish, we arrived in mainly because of this guy, so it's pretty cool. What we got? Shoe, Whites, and Gub is his son who's doing that. What? You don't like your mom's birth names or something? All you guys.
We do, but we're a nickname family.
I noticed that. Okay, so anyway, Jim,
My
Shoe.
dad called me a lot of names. Sometimes it
We won't
wasn't
put
Shoe.
those in here. All righty, go ahead, Shoe. Take over, buddy.
Thanks, Steve. First thing I got to do, Phil would sit right there over on Don's field, and this was his pose. And it never changed. And he would just look like he was analyzing everything that you did. At a game or at practice. What a guy. But he wasn't afraid to give you his opinion.
Did he give you some advice?
Oh yeah, he
Did we
gave me
take one of those state titles
he
for our
he
family?
yeah, absolutely. He gave me he gave me a lot of advice, especially the number one thing Phil was a kid's manager, a kid's person. Kids loved him. Kids loved him and respected him. And when you start talking about records here and there, who gives a shit? That doesn't matter. The kids love you and respect you and look up to you. And I talked to players that played for Phil, and he was beloved. He was beloved. He was the instigator of a lot of this right down here. Okay, it's an honor to be able to speak a little bit here at such a great man's tribute and bench warming, or whatever you want to call it. The Boyack family asked me to speak and say a few words, and it's an honor and a privilege, and thank you very much. I appreciate that. When he asked me to speak, he says, Roger Reed's going to be speaking, so we brought in the big guns. And I says, well, who besides Roger? And he says, you. And I says, well, you brought in one big gun, okay, AK-47, and I think you brought in a pop gun, and that would be me. But it's an honor to speak with Roger. That's somebody that I've respected my whole life. He is a mentor to me. Coached all of his boys. Wonderful kids. Even better kids than they are players, and they were pretty damn good. And so it's a privilege to stand up here with Coach Reed. Going to back me up, and he'll pick me up with anything I maybe screw up on. But I told Steve it might not be the most eloquent speech, because since you quit teaching, you don't get in front of people and talk. And I will tell you this beats the hell out of church, okay? Because you're at the ballpark talking, and you're talking amongst people that you respect down here. So it's a lot better than talking in church. I will say that. But I told him, I says, so it might not be the most eloquent. And he cut me off right there, and he said, perfect, that's what Dad would want. And I think he's probably right. I coached, as Steve said, I was head coach for 29 years at Spanish Fork High School. And I also assisted Tim Brethwaite for 4 or 5 years. So I coached 35 years. And the development of Spanish Fork baseball and the tradition and the reputation that we have, and I can tell you because I've done a lot of coaching with the Utah Baseball Academy and Mountain West Baseball, it's unreal how Spanish Fork baseball is known around the state, around the Intermountain area, and even around throughout the country. It dumbfounded me a lot of the times that, oh yeah, Spanish Fork, I know Spanish Fork, they're damn good. They play good baseball. And I'm proud of that. If you've been walked in the Don's Field, Nelson Field over there, it has all the state championships and all the region championships listed. And I'm awfully proud of that. And I come down here every single day because this is where I work. Ever since 1980, 42 years. From March to Thanksgiving. And then I do whatever I'm told those rest of the months. But from March to Thanksgiving, I work down here at the ballpark. And, not very many people get to work at a place that they absolutely love. And I got to work at 2 of them. Spanish Fork High School and Spanish Fork City in here at the ballpark. I love this place. And the tradition that is represented, it's very special to me. And I'm indebted to a lot of people, Phil Boyack being one of them. There was a lot of forefathers, a lot of pioneers down here that set the stage for players and coaches that were to be. And Phil was one of the main guys. It started with those guys. And I'm indebted to them, as are the baseball players, to guys like Phil, and a few of them, Jack Swenson, of course, longtime recreation director. We got a few city officials here. If that city recreation building that's built and it doesn't have his name on it, there's going to be hell to pay, as far as I'm concerned. So I'll get off that soapbox. But Jack Swenson, Leon Abbott, the Christensen brothers, Rod Dart, Clyde Nilsson, Erlyn Morrell, Ned Bradford, Bob Hunter, Sherm Huff, and I'm especially grateful for my coaches that taught me a lot. George Beardall, Alan Ainge, Paul Johnson, and I'm sure there's many, many others. Ed Beck, another one, and some that are here that were very instrumental, and I reaped a lot of the benefits that they started and developed right here. If you've never seen that 2-part SFCN, Baseball Legends, get it and see it. I just watched it, was on not too long ago, and I watched both of them. It brings a tear to my eye every time I watch it for those men, because they did so much for this community, for players, and for coaches, and for everybody in developing just not the baseball program, but all of the our recreation program is second to none. And it's because of guys like that. Very selfless, great guys. I recommend that you get that and watch it if you haven't seen it. And it'll be on more, won't it, Pete? Yep.
It's on our YouTube channel.
Yep. Yeah, there you go. I really appreciate Phil and the coaching that he did for 20 years. And I have no idea what his record is, and I don't really care, because I know the respect that he had. And I know the baseball knowledge that he had, because he talked to me all the time, okay? And it wasn't a deep, intricate X's and O's knowledge. It was how to coach kids knowledge, how to get along with kids, how to get the most out of them, how to get kids to come and play. Steve told me that he used to go around the neighborhood, and if you weren't playing, he'd ask them why. And well, I don't have a mitt. He'd go buy him a mitt. And that's just the type of guy Phil was. Such a great guy. Coached the Pirates, the White Sox, and his favorite, the Phillies, Zions. And like I said, how successful, who cares? He was the most successful, as far as I'm concerned, with what he did. Because he coached for kids. He coached for the right reason. He was respected and loved by his players. And the other thing that really stands out to me about Phil is, to me, he is the father of the Snack Shack. Mr. Snack Shack. You remember that old green building over on Don's Field, 2 stories. The upper they used for the score booth. The lower was just full of crap from the city. Well, he cleaned that out, or had somebody clean it out, bought a little grill, went to Coca-Cola, had them bring in some fountain drinks. You couldn't get ice, you just got the drink, okay, no ice, and some, other goodies. And it just seems like all the time he was in that Snack Shack. If he wasn't coaching the game, he was in that Snack Shack working. And, to me, he's the founder of the Snack Shack. And I heard people talking about how good those burgers were. And you know what? They don't sell them anymore. They've cut out the burgers. They just do hot dogs and other stuff. And they hear about that from me all the time, because those were icons down here at the ballpark burger. So he was like I said, he was instrumental in the Snack Shack and what we have over there now. Okay, in closing, Phil deserves this bench. There's no one that deserves it more than Phil Boyack. There's plenty of other guys that deserve it too, but nobody deserves it more than Phil Boyack. And when I pull in the ballpark from now on, every morning, from March to November, I'll see that bench right there, and I'll picture in my mind Phil sitting, just like I was, right there on that bench. Now, again, I'm grateful and thankful for all of you, many people that have been influential in my life, and I appreciate you. And again, thanks to the Boyack family for allowing me to say a few words. Thank you.
Come on up here, Raj. All right.
I know. Hey, wait a minute. I know I'm old, and you guys are looking at me. I'll get over there.
You want that?
And you're looking at me like I'm old. I came down with some vertigo the last couple of weeks, and so I usually don't walk like that, but hopefully it gets a little bit better. Can you hear me? Okay.
Let me do some introduction of you,
no,
good man.
No, you don't have to do any of that.
Okay. No, I want to. This guy's special. All righty. First of all, yeah, Dad talking about the burgers. He'd come down and say, "Hey, we're going out to dinner tonight, family. Let's go." We'd drive into the ballpark and have hamburgers. Okay. But anyway, Roger, so thankful for you coming out. He's the winningest coach in BYU history. I got his record. I'm probably going to hammer it. How about 152 and 76?
I don't know. I have no idea.
These great coaches don't know that. That's all close to a 70% winning rate, and that is awesome. 3 WAC championships, 2 WAC tournament championships, 2-time WAC Coach of the Year. All right. Assistant for the Phoenix Suns. Okay. I'm still waiting for my phone call, though, Raj. I played a little bit. Okay. But anyway, played at Weber State. Now, most of you don't know this. Roger, what was your best sport?
Baseball.
Do you know Roger was a baseball player? Awesome baseball player, drafted by the Atlanta Braves, AAA baseball player. That was his sport. Boy, but look what he did in basketball. Okay, he could have done anything in all of them. Okay.
That's good.
No, hold on. All this time I was trying to find something good about you. Okay. He was drafted as a shortstop, right? Okay. In we won't say the year. All right.
Yeah, don't say that.
Now, my dad and Raj became real good friends, okay? Again, Dad respected people that did things the right way, okay? And that's what Roger was all about. When it came time for Roger to leave BYU, ticked my dad off, okay? He had, like I mentioned before, tickets on the 50-yard line of football, basketball season tickets. We never went to another ball game over there. He didn't. Dad says.
Neither did I, by the way. I haven't been to one. Do they still play over there?
Okay, all righty. So Dad didn't. He took off, but Dad was always keep me aware. Mom and Dad keep me aware of what's going on in Spanish Fork. Okay. All of a sudden, I'm hearing about this kid named Randy Reed, and he started telling me his stats. And I was a basketball coach. I said, Dad, what's you something wrong with your head? Senility hitting a little soon. Nobody's going to be averaging close to 30, 29 a game. Is that what he averaged for 3 or 4 years? He doesn't know. I do. But that's just crazy, especially in Utah type basketball. And yet Randy was doing that. Then comes along this other kid. He said, Steve, you got to see this kid named Robbie. And we had a chance to play Robbie's team, and boy, I put like 6 guys on him every time he got the ball. Tell me how I did that, but we had to. But his boys were just phenomenal basketball players. Darren came along later, but they were just phenomenal, and it's because of this guy right here. Okay, he took them when they were young, taught them the right way, taught them how to be young men, taught them how to be great basketball players, but greater young men. Roger's teams at BYU were never as fast as the teams he was playing. They couldn't jump as high. Sean Bradley's the only one who could dunk on your whole team, wasn't it? About the whole. Okay, but they just couldn't jump. They couldn't run as fast, and they were out athleticized. Okay, but Roger found a way to beat them all. Okay, and he'd do that. The kids could shoot the 3. They were experts at that. They got to the line, they wouldn't miss. Okay, and the mid-range jumpers, everything, and because Roger expected perfection out of those young men. They'd execute. I know. He built a pride. I'm almost there. Built a pride in his young men. BYU, I felt overachieved, and I think that's the mark of a fantastic coach. They loved playing for him. He kept his morals. He kept his beliefs. He kept all those things strong, which is not easy to do as a Division I college coach. I implemented a lot of the drills that I learned from him. I'd come up and work some of his camps, and my players got better because of it. One last good story, my buddy Mike Forsing back there can probably relate. I looked up something, and they asked Roger, what was your best wins? Okay, and here you're thinking U of U. You're thinking, sorry, buddy, sit down. This is my last one. I'll hold you. BYU, U of U, beating U of U, beating USU. We got some Aggies here, but he kind of mentioned, no, it was in my little old high school days. He was coaching at Payson, and he said beating Spanish Fork was one of the biggest wins of his career. Me and Mike Forsing sat back there on the bench after that because it eliminated our season and our. You remember that, Mike? We could get him now. He can't outrun us anymore. Okay. But he did, and I vividly remember that. You people that have been athletes, it's been a little over 25 years, I think, that occurred, but maybe more. But, this guy ended our career. Thanks, Roger. Appreciate it. Okay, so without further ado, and there you go.
Thank you. Steve, I appreciate that, and sure Shu does too. If you were my athletic director, I'd probably still be at BYU, you know what I mean?
You would be.
With all those kind of nice things. But like Shu said a lot of good things. And I am honored to be here, really honored. Now, I'm a Red Devil, you got to know that. But a Don, well, I tell you what, if I bring up Red Devils to my kids, I learn that quickly. You never say a Red Devil around my boys, never, ever. So I'm honored to be here. Especially to talk about a great man. A great man. See, Phil is my hero. And why he's my hero is because he served in the military, in the Navy. We're sitting here honoring a great guy because of the freedoms of that guy and the greatest generation gave us. Will you hand me that water there, Shu? Please. That's why he's my hero, because he's a guy that made it all happen, guys like him, that we could be here today. And so I just, when I talk about heroes and all that, it's guys like Phil Boyack that's a hero. I got a couple of notes here. Let me tell you the first time I met Phil. First time I met him, I was sitting at the ballpark, And he came up to me. He said, Roger, I didn't know this guy at all. You know, I just kind of moved in the community. He said, I watched you play Little League. I watched you play Pony League. I watched you play Colt League. And you were a great player. Now, how do you not like Phil Boyack, huh? How do I not ever not like him? When he said the first time I ever met him, that's what he said. You know, right now I can see him walking down that lane. I don't know about you. I can see him walking right down there, just hurrying to get to the fields because he thought he was late or whatever to watch a game. And I can just see him walking there. When they talk about guys, and Shu mentioned this, guys in the past that made all this happen. I mean, I look around. See, to have a bench, this is hollowed ground to me. This is like the Veteran Cemetery in Washington, D.C. I'm serious. You talk about this. I mean, hours. I tell you what, I'd like to have the hours being down here 6 in the morning and 9 o'clock at night, having those hot dogs and, those hamburgers. Oh, those hamburgers. And they don't sell them anymore. No wonder this was a tight-knit community. We all came together just to have a hamburger and talk about what's going on in the community. And Phil was one of those guys. But you just think about it now. See, I think about Phil, and I look at this surroundings, and then, because of the great programs we have, that other ballpark, and I sit and I think, all the hours that he put into this. I'll bet when it started raining, I can see him now. Hey, we got to get the game in. I better get my rake out. It might rain tonight. He might be down ready just to get out on that diamond and get the water off so we can have a ball game. See, that's a Phil Boyack. That's the kind of guy that I know. Those kind of people. They're not on TV. They're not having movies made about them, all that kind of thing. You know, they're not in the spotlight. That's why I love being from Spanish Fork. That's where I'm from. Did you know, when I was at BYU, did you know, and I'm going to tell you this, I was called into the president's office and said, we want you to move from Spanish Fork. We want you to move up in the Timview area so you can be around these kind of people that are here. And I said, you kidding me? You mean Spanish Fork people are not good enough for BYU people? True story. I said, I won't be here then because I'm going to live in Spanish Fork. Because they're great people. And it's a great community. Because of guys like Phil Boyack. You know, Phil and you other guys here that played for him, see, I knew him after. I didn't get a chance to see all that. But I can tell you how I know what kind of coach he was, and I'll tell you that in a minute. But see, my 3 sons were recipient of Phil Boyack and many other guys that Coach has talked about. They had that opportunity to be down here. You know why we moved to Spanish Fork? See, I'm from Springville. I was a Red Devil. We moved to Spanish Fork because of my wife. And the number one reason is their baseball program, the recreation. That's why we moved here. Now, would people say, wait a minute, you moved to a town because the baseball program? Yeah, sure did. All right, people wouldn't talk to me in Springville for you don't know how long. But that's why we moved here. And I'm just going to say this, we're talking about Phil, but that guy right there, my kids love that guy, Coach Shu. They used to say, one played at Michigan, basketball and baseball, one played at BYU basketball, one drafted by the Padres, the one is going to be drafted by the Cubs, and I told him, hey, don't worry about it, he's going to play basketball. Anyway, they said, Coach, to me, Dad, nobody knows baseball like Shu does. Nobody. I wish these coaches that I work with knew and had the same kind of program he did. So that's just a compliment that my kids that went through this program with are the recipients of a guy like Phil Boyack. When I'd be sitting down there, and he all of a sudden he'd find me, he'd come up and sit by me and start talking. And see, I didn't know his teams or anything, but I could tell he loved his players. We got talking, and he knew players. And he'd talk about this guy and this other guy and this other guy and this guy on the other team. But it was all positive, never negative. And I thought, man, what a guy. What a guy saying all these about his former players. All of them couldn't have been that good, could they? But that's the way Phil talked about him. And then, as it's been said many times, here's a guy See, most people in the community, it's when their kids are there, they're involved. You know, they got all the answers. They're down telling the coaches how to run the program. The minute their kids are gone, they're gone. Not Phil. See, he had a love of community, a love of of the kids and the program and the coaches with respect. And so he was there, thick and thin. He watched him through Pony League, Colt League, all the way through high school. That's what a true fan is a Phil Boyack. It's a guy like that. It's just not a front runner. And as I was sitting by him, you know, all of a sudden I got to know this guy a little better. I thought I knew baseball, and we got talking. I said, this guy knows baseball, like Shu mentioned. This guy knows baseball. He'd say, why did this guy double steal? Why did the coach do that? And he'd come up with an answer. I said, holy cow, what's a double steal? You know. So I'm just saying, see, he had a knowledge of the game, but it was very humble. And you guys that played for him, I know that you know what I'm talking about. I know that we've been here a long time, and he told me just take 2 minutes. I get rambling on, but I'm just going to say this. Nobody loved his family more than Phil Boyack. Half the time I'm sitting in the bleachers, he's talking about this guy here. You ought to see my son down in Vegas. Oh, I tell you what, he's got a team in that. And I got to know him, and he was. And Steve was the kind of guy that let me know about all the players that I should be looking at and whatever. Not that he didn't love girls, not that he didn't love his daughter. And I went down there when Steve had 3 girls, and I said, Steve, come on, shape up, man. Let's get serious here. You're a basketball coach. Let's get them going. And then Corey came along and had a chance to coach Corey also. See, Phil is the kind of guy that I look up to for the right reasons, because he loved the community. He loved it here. And he was a loyal fan. He wasn't a front runner. And I'm just so excited to think that that bench right here now, and I say this, on hallowed grounds. Some of you don't understand this ballpark, what it means to me, and to have a bench here with all the people that came before him, that worked with him. And we mentioned Jack Swinson. I had a chance to coach, be assistant coach with Jack for 4 years, because for some reason he kept drafting my kids to be on his team. I don't know why, but he did. And I want to thank Steve's family and his wife, because you know what? To put this kind of thing on, to make it happen, is not easy. People have no idea. They just come down thinking they fill up a couple of signs here. No, this has been a big endeavor. And I want you to know how much he appreciates it, his family appreciates it, that you're all here. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Jim, shoot.
Thank you, Shu and Roger. We sure appreciate you spending your time and coming down here. Not always easy. And their sweet wives, Pat, thank you. Appreciate it, and loaning us him and loaning him to the baseball community for so many years. We know what that's all about. Okay, in closing, I'd just like to just draw your attention over this flag and the picture of Dad when he was 19, 20, 21, whatever that age was taken, but when he served there. And you know, it was a special time, and he did volunteer for us to celebrate this. A lot of stuff going on right now. Like I said, the 100th birthday, 4th of July, you know, and this memorial. I loved what Roger said about this is hallowed ground, and I never really have thought about it like that, but boy, it is. For us guys that played here, a lot, you know, I got shaking heads back down there, and it really, you know, I love that. And I know that this now, you know, I mean, it all came together with that. It's going to be here for forever, you know, and it's something special, and I'm so thankful to Spanish Fork City and to all of you, and most, you know, about all of you have helped with, you know, some funding of that. Man, it became a lot more expensive than I thought. Okay, so we appreciate it. But one last story with, like I said, the recognition there. I was in about 8th grade with some of my buddies that are sitting back there being goofy again probably, but we were back down in 8th grade, and we'd always come down and watch the high school basketball teams play. You know, we just loved it. We loved sports growing up. Just anytime we could come out onto this little field right here, it was mostly dirt at the time, and just took ground balls, played workups, played whatever. And, you know, we were always doing that, so we always followed all the sports in town. And we were in 8th grade Walked down to the high school to watch the varsity play, and you know, the national anthem's going on like it does every single ball game that's ever played, and I love it. But we're up there being goofy little 8th graders, you know, we're playing, or, you know, hitting each other, or talking and doing whatever during the national anthem. You know, kids do that stuff. I looked down at my dad, and he had season tickets. You know, they got him some season tickets, again on the 50-yard line, as they say, mid-court in basketball. He gets up out of his seat right after the national anthem, and I'm watching him. You know, we're still talking and having fun. I'm watching him. He walks down the sideline, walks across the baseline in front of all, you know, everybody, and he's just walking calmly across. And if you've been in the old gym there's a stairwell that goes up the back, and we had to go up that to get where we were sitting to watch the game. Well, all of a sudden, he appears at the top of the stairs, and he goes, "You don't want that from Dad." So I go, I point at my buddy, him? No, I was hoping to get out of it. But anyway, I walked down there, slowly down there, trying to think, what have I done? What's going on here? Because Dad never got mad. You know, he was always calm. But you knew when he said something that he meant it. Well, he calls me down. It's my favorite story about him, but the toughest to say. And he said, "Son, I spent 4 years volunteering in the military for this country, for that flag, for that national anthem." He said, "I appreciate it if you'd respect it." That's all he had to say. As a coach for over 36 years in football, basketball, baseball, myself, I've heard that national anthem play at thousands and thousands and thousands of ball games. I stand at attention. My hands over my heart. I'm standing straight, and I'm looking at the flag. Phil Boyack taught me that. Never forgotten it. And I'm proud of Dad for that, and for the lessons he's taught me, and I'm sure taught a lot of you. But we'll go ahead now and unveil the bench. Okay, grandkids, drum roll, do your thing. They actually haven't rehearsed this, you can tell. Phil always loved his SF hat. That's why I'm wearing this one. Even though I teach and coach up Maple Mountain, but I'm still a Don. But he loved his SF hats. We got 2 of them bronzed and put on the side there for armrests. Feel free to rest your arm on those things. But there it is, and the little plaque there. You can read it and look at it. And like I say, feel free to send it anytime you want. So,
Thank you guys.
thank you all for coming. Appreciate it.